Bernie, who worked and had a family at home, quickly found himself overwhelmed. He realized that he needed to set limits, so he told his father he would drive him to the grocery store once a week and to doctor appointments, but would not drive him back and forth to the gym. Angrily, Edward said he would quit the gym. I was tempted just to drive him to the gym because I knew it was his favorite thing to do and I didn't want him to lose that, Bernie said. But it was too much time for me. And he could go if he was willing to accept outside help. So I told him that it was his choice. One day of skipping the gym was enough motivation to get Dad to use the volunteer driving service, and now he actually enjoys the company. That might be an example that might resonate, it might not. But when we're talking about narcissistic parents, and when we're talking about narcissistic parents as they continue to age and get older, you start to see a lot of different things that start popping up, where there's a lot of different aspects of like, how do I actually deal with them? Like, what do I actually do? Like, how do I actually work to protect myself against narcissistic parents, against, as they get older or as they like end up coming towards you? Like, how does this actually happen? Sometimes there's people that have to go completely no contact with their parents because of the toxicity that's involved there and because the level of abuse that's happening on a day-to-day basis from them. Something to consider. If you're on any of these platforms here, also TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube, since we're here, there's a couple other creators you can follow that have specific workings with that. One is Bree, she runs Abuse is Abuse, and the other is Catherine, and she also runs Stand Coaching. Check those two out. Those two come from narcissistic families. And Catherine had a narcissistic dad, Bree had a narcissistic mom, and it gives you an idea of what they had to do for either a period of time or long term to go no contact with some of these people to be able to process, to be able to work through their own stuff before they could ever even reach out or maybe even never have contact. Something to be able to check out. We're going through this book recently called The Narcissist in Your Life by Julie Hall. And one of the things I wanted to highlight and kind of bring to attention is it gives a couple tips for handling aging narcissistic parents. And so I wanted to kind of walk through real quick. Managing a narcissistic parent is a struggle, but they tend to magnify their problems by either denying their need for help or playing on their victimhood. They may ignore medical advice and refuse care or exaggerate their needs and make unreasonable drama and demands. They'll find it difficult to understand your position as a younger adult who has a full plate of responsibilities, possibly including caring for your own kids at home. Making matters more strained, they may be alienated from family members and others in social circles. As with any aging parent, you will need to assess your parents' needs, your own resources, and your own willingness to be involved. Over time, their needs will increase, requiring you to periodically reassess things. Whether you help at all may be a difficult choice. Parents who have been actively abusive or violent may not be safe to be around, or there may be too much water under the bridge for you. Also consider your motives for getting involved. Are you hoping to get approval or prove something? Try to be clear with yourself and realistic about your expectations. It is your job to put your needs and those of your current family first. So a couple tips. We've got 10 tips that I want to be able to walk through with you real quick about how to deal with narcissistic parents. Number 1. Set boundaries. Think about what you're willing to do and be clear with your parents about your limits. Try not to let feelings of guilt make decisions for you. Oftentimes people struggle to set boundaries with narcissistic parents because of guilt, because of shame, because of the idea of like, I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to, and the list goes on and on. Like, are you trying to prove something? Are you trying to get back into good favor with someone who is abusing you? Like, think through what is actually the motivation behind it, and then what boundaries do I need to set? Those boundaries need to be clear, and they need to be firm of, hey, here's the line. If you want to go past it, that's totally fine on you, but just understand here's the consequence, or here's what I'm going to do if you don't listen to my boundaries. Number 2, be direct and unemotional. Try not to react to fawning, baiting, or melodrama, or other forms of manipulation. It is better for everyone to keep expectations clear. You'll see a lot of times where people will bait the other person, where a parent will bait one of the kids or bait one of the family members to try to be able to get them to latch onto their victimhood, to latch onto what's going on so that they can manipulate and control the other person. Number 3, share responsibility. If you have siblings or other family or family friends able to help, divvy up the responsibilities. Be realistic about what you can handle. Like, just because they're a parent doesn't mean you can handle everything. You've still got work, life, everything else that's happening, kids, family. Like there's a lot of different things that are happening. It doesn't mean that you don't care about that person, but you also need to be realistic of what am I doing to be able to help them, but also to be able to make sure that I'm maintaining my job, my family, everything like that that's still going on. Number 4, create a schedule. A schedule can help provide structure, manage expectations, and stay organized. I love schedules because I think it helps with staying organized 100%. But I would say the biggest part with dealing with the narcissistic parent is the idea is it helps maintain expectations. Here's the expectation. This is in the schedule. This is going to happen at this time. Like if you want this to happen, then we need to put it in the schedule. Like it needs to be structured so that they understand, hey, like I'm not just going to drop everything at the drop of a hat and run over to be able to take you to the store. There has to be structure and they have to understand those boundaries. Number 5, use community resources. Many communities have free and affordable services for seniors, such as meals, transportation, classes, group outings, and health-related care. Your parents may have free gym membership or other preventative care perks through their health insurance. If your parents resist community help, preferring that you do it, you will need to make it clear that you will and what you won't do. When faced with the reality, they may change their mind about accepting help outside. So kind of like the illustration that I read at the very beginning is you got to be able to set those boundaries and be able to say, hey, I can help up to this point, or like, hey, this isn't feasible because of job, because of family, like whatever's already going on. Let's see about finding solutions. And the cool thing is there's a lot of solutions out there. There's a lot of help for a lot of people out there, whether that's, community help, whether that's, psychology, whether that's therapy. Like there's a lot of different help out there for people who are willing to accept it. That's one of the hardest things, right? That's one of the hardest things for narcissists is to be willing to accept help, to be willing to heal, grow, and change themselves, because they typically won't do that. That's probably one of the biggest questions I get from people is like, will my narcissist change? Like, will they heal? Like, will they actually work on themselves? Well, if they're not showing awareness, growth, healing, change, if they're not showing honest vulnerability, consistent change, it's not going to happen. A lot of times when it gets older, when they get to a place where that's just ingrained, habitual for so long, there's not going to be a change there. Anyways, number 6, allow consequences to play out. The narcissistic personality is often shielded from consequences by enabling partners and other family members or even codependent friends. But consequences are often the only thing that motivate people to change their behavior and take responsibility. With safe parameters, try to allow natural consequences to occur so that your parents can be in charge of their lives as much as possible. If that means being together on Thanksgiving, so be it. If that means not being together on Thanksgiving, so be it. Sorry. But having those consequences, like even if it's something that's like, man, this doesn't feel right. Like this doesn't feel like we're being like the supportive family that we need to be. But wait a second, did they cross the boundaries? Did they cross what you already said? Did they go against that? Did they abuse you in this way? Okay, then they need those consequences. Remember, I normally say a boundary without consequences is just a speed bump for the narcissist. They're just going to keep rolling over you time and time again and not care about it. Number 7, talk to doctors. You may need to accompany your parents to doctor appointments or find another way to speak with their doctors to get an accurate information and or help them manage their healthcare and medications. Number 8, step back from drama. Don't take responsibility for your parents' behaviors or reputation with others. How your parents act is their responsibility, not yours. Unless it endangers someone or jeopardizes their care or safety, try not to get involved. How they act is not your responsibility. A lot of times people need to hear that, not just for narcissistic parents, but just narcissists as a whole, just codependence as a whole. How the other person acts is not your job to modify, is not your job to fix, is not your responsibility. Number 9, accept help if it comes, if it helps. Cannot read today, sorry guys. If your parents can reciprocate your help in certain ways, take that help, but be clear about what that help means for you both. If there's strings attached that are unacceptable, that's a deal breaker. So be careful how it transposes from the parents back. Number 10, walk away from bigotry. If your parents are expressing sexism, racism, or other forms of bigotry that you find degrading, let them know it's not allowed on your watch. Again, setting clear boundaries. You have to be able to set clear boundaries when you're dealing with a narcissist in general, but especially when you're dealing with parents that are narcissistic or aging parents as they're getting older. You have to be able to say, like, hey, this isn't acceptable. This is the line that I'm not willing to cross. Hopefully those couple examples helped. Again, it comes back to the book, The Narcissist in Your Life. It's got a lot of good content, a lot of good information. Check it out, and I hope you have a great day.